I'm Reverend Dr. Suzi Schadle. I'm your interim minister here at Suncoast, and I'm glad to be here, singing or not. So, I want to start out with a quote from my mentor, Reverend Mary Manning Morrissey. And she teaches this. She says, true abundance is not about gathering more things. It's about touching the place in us that is connected to the divine source of abundance, so that we know what we need in the moment will be provided. That's really an important quote, I think. It's a great reminder that even in challenging, whether it be on the international level, the national level, the local level, the communal level, the individual level, in economic times, if we allow ourselves to be in the presence of Spirit and to remember that we are one with that power and that presence, that all of our needs will be taken care of in the moment. And for us to know that absolutely at source is engaging our spiritual power, which is beyond any kind of challenge or circumstance that may exist in our lives right in this moment. It's an important thing to know. It's also important to remember that we are also having a human experience. If we weren't supposed to have a human experience, we wouldn't be in this, we wouldn't be human. You know, we'd be poof into the ethers and just be these spiritual beings floating around, or we'd be, if we were really smart, we'd be cats. We'd be somebody's pet. But given that we're not that we have come in this form, in this body, we are intended to have a human experience at the same time that we're having this spiritual experience. So while it's good to remember that Spirit has our back, and to know that we have that spiritual power because we're one with that, it's also important that we develop some practical ways to engage and develop our abundance consciousness, our spiritual muscle, if you will, in a human way, in our human experience. You know, we're called to awaken, I think. I think that really is what this life is all about, that we're called to awaken. Now, we can awaken by being pushed by pain. That's very much a human experience, being pushed by pain. It's very motivating. I don't know about you, but pain usually motivates me to do something to make the pain stop, right? So it can be a great motivator. I don't encourage you to have it last, because its lasting effects are detrimental. Or we can choose to be pulled by vision. We can choose to be pulled by vision, which is pulling our human experience into the spiritual experience. So while we might get motivated by being pushed by pain, we can stay motivated and exceed even our own wildest expectations if we allow ourselves to be pulled by a vision that literally pulls us into it, as long as we hold that vision. So today, one of the things I want to do is share a little bit about some spiritual and practical tips and practices for us to make peace with money and prosperity and abundance, to really develop that abundance consciousness. And when I say abundance, I mean well-being of every nature. Not just prosperity or material well-being, but well-being of every nature. So it's both. It's prosperity, it's money, it's material, and it goes deeper than that. Our own founder, Reverend Dr. Ernest Holmes, wrote, "If you could realize the tremendous power of attraction that holds everything in its place, it is yours. It is yours, this gift. It is the divine birthright of every living soul, but we limit ourselves by thought of limitation. Now, we must open the doors of our consciousness and expand and expand and expand, and no longer think in terms of the backyard lot, but in terms of the infinite nature, in the terms of the universe." So get a bigger vision, get a bigger idea, get a bigger possibility rumbling around in your mind and in your heart. So let's talk about vision just a little bit. You know, vision is about what we want to experience. Now, last week I talked about the I am creation formula: intention, attention, and an affirmation, and then manifestation. So it'd be good if we knew what it was we were wanting to do that formula with. So vision is that thing that pulls us into it. So imagine for yourself, or for this community, or for your family, your business, whatever it may be. Imagine what's possible rather than focus on what is or what was. Imagine what's possible. Don't stick with the what is or the what was. This possibility consciousness is absolutely essential to creation and to joy and to fulfillment. It is absolutely essential that we move to that place of possibility rather than what we already know. So if you've been there, done that, say yay and amen, thank you very much, let it go, moving on, right? Now, creation itself happens, it's kind of a dual thing. It happens first in mind and heart, in our thought and our feeling, and then in manifestation. Manifestation doesn't just happen without first there being a thought and a feeling around it. So it's a double whammy creation. Our job in that part of creation is to first clear the clutter of our mind. Get all the juju and the garbage out of there, because it is not serving you, trust me. You know, that little one that sits in there, yeah, get rid of that one. And once you clear it out, then get a clear what idea of your intention. A very clear what intention you want to experience. And then just focus on that. Give that the attention and the affirmation. God's job is the how. You don't need to worry about the how. That's God's job. This is partnership, folks. What is us? How is God? If we allow it. A lot of times we block things. You know, we don't even let God get to the how because we're too busy talking about why it ain't gonna happen. That's just nuts. Now, what we're doing by this process is we're creating a space within us, a mental equivalent, if you will, or a new paradigm, if you will, that's more expansive than what we've had in the past or what we have now. So we're expanding, and you should see in the mirror, your head should just be getting bigger and bigger, and your heart getting bigger and bigger. Hopefully the rest of you doesn't get bigger and bigger. But so expand that mental equivalent, expand that possibility in your mind and in your heart and in your soul. And as we expand that mental equivalent, that new paradigm, it creates a space within which abundance of every nature can flow. You know, see yourself living with abundance and prosperity. If you can't see yourself in that picture, you've got to get a new picture. You could start by going to the store. You know how they have lovely pictures in the frames, you know. People started, I've had people start out that way with lovely pictures in the frames that weren't them, but you know, sometimes it can give you an idea, hey, maybe I could be in there. I'm going to cut out a picture of myself and put me in that picture, right? If you have a gorgeous picture that has a lifestyle that you would love, cut out a picture of yourself and put yourself right in there. So you've got to get a really good mental picture. See yourself living in abundance and prosperity of every nature. Have a vivid mental picture in mind and a passionate feeling of the experience inwardly. And then literally, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference. Your subconscious mind is already there living it, unless you're living in the past in your limited way. But that's why you got to do the mind clutter thing. The Vulcan mind meld. Right? Now I'm going to give you a little bit of t-shirt wisdom. You know, t-shirts and bumper stickers. Oh my God, we would all be so stupid without them, right? So here's some t-shirt wisdom for you. Maybe this could be our next t-shirt item. Here's what it says on this t-shirt. Don't downgrade your dreams to match your reality. Upgrade your faith to match your vision. I love that. I would wear that t-shirt. Actually, you should probably frame it and put it right in by your bathroom mirror so while you're getting ready in the morning, you're seeing that. Don't downgrade your dreams to match your reality. Upgrade your faith to match your vision. So you've got to get a big vision. Get a big t-shirt too. So let's talk about some vision practices that you can do to sort of exercise that spiritual muscle of vision. I'm going to invite you to write a letter to a trusted friend. This is somebody you sort of trust with your life. Trusted friend. No naysayers. Do not So probably that leaves out most of your relatives. So a trusted friend, somebody you wish was your brother or sister or your parent. I always wanted Julie Andrews to be my mother. I know what's up with that. You know, in Sound of Music, what are you going to do? You know, Mary Poppins. Yeah, so write a letter to Mary Poppins. And in that letter, put this. Do a very, very vivid and dynamic description of how you are living with the desired material prosperity and deeper abundance 5 years from now. So you're going to do a very descriptive picture of how you're living in prosperity and abundance 5 years from now. That's the intention part of this. Okay, so very descriptive, very flowery, lots of color and vividness to it. And then also include in that something that brings attention and affirmation. Include some plans and some strategies. Like, you know, there's got to be some values and vision and purpose and passion involved in it. So have that be part of this letter as well. And then also you want to have some goals and some actions in it. So think about, you know, what am I going to do 5 years from now, and then work your way back. What am I going to do 5 years from now to make this real? What am I going to do 1 year from now to make this real? What am I going to do this month to make this real? What am I going to do this week to make this real? What am I going to do today and each day of this week to make this real? In my human experience, it's already done in the spiritual world. It's just waiting for us to catch up. So go catch it. Go catch your dream. Now, all of this works, whether it be for you individually, in your family, in your business, in your community where you live, in this spiritual community. All of this will begin to work as we set that very clear and powerful vision that compels us and pulls us toward it. Then we begin to live into our potential and our possibility, and instead of living last year over again or last week over again, we get to live a new week, a new life. Have a new thought about how we're living now. That's where we, you know, you get this thing. New thought. We're new thought. So have a new thought, for God's sake. And I do mean for God's sake. Now, you got a little piece of paper like this when you came in. If you didn't raise your hand, somebody will bring you one. If you didn't get one, keep your hands up, and somebody's going to bring you one. Because I'm just curious about the potential and the possibility of this spiritual community. What are the things, the dream, you know, I've heard some of the dreams and visions that you all have because I've asked, you know, in surveys and in various ways. I've gotten information from all of you about some of the dreams and possibilities you have, like getting a space of our own rather than renting one, someplace where we could be 24/7 if we wanted to be. All kinds of things. Being able to have guest musicians every week. There's all kinds of things that people have put forward. Some of the things that we would be able to do in the community. Well, guess what? That takes resources. It takes time, talent, and treasure. And as long as we're having a human experience, treasure is always going to be a part of it. I've tried to convince my landlord and all the people I pay bills to every month, hey, but I'm a spiritual being. And they're like, yeah, and I'm not, so you know? So as long as we're still having a human experience, there's still going to be some money involved. And some of us have some funky ideas around money, but anyway, we're going to get to that. So what I want to ask you to do, because I'd like to see what is the mental equivalent, what's the potential, what's the possibility that we can live into in this spiritual community together as one. So I want you to think about what your income is on a monthly basis. And if you have one of those kind of jobs where it kind of fluctuates, estimate an average of monthly income. And put 10% of what that is on this paper. I guarantee you I am not a handwriting expert. In fact, I'm not even looking at these afterwards. Somebody else is doing that. I have not hired a handwriting expert, so you're not obligated, even if you put a big figure down there. Although if you want to do it, we would joyously accept it. But I just want to get an idea of what's possible for us. Now, if you filled one of these out last week, please don't fill it out again. Okay, because we're trying to see the potential of the whole community. Sorry, I should have said that. Hey, that's fine. You got to see if the pen works, right? So if you filled it out last week, don't do it this week. If you haven't filled one out, do it. And again, it doesn't obligate you. However, it's going to give us a mental equivalent that we can create a vision around that pulls us into it as a community. Okay, and then you're going to put these in the tithe basket when it comes around, or what do we call those? Offering basket. Tide basket, whatever. I'm dreaming and wishing that it was a Tide basket, a 10% basket. So when you put whatever you're putting this week, which I'm sure is probably equivalent to what you're writing down in the paper, possibility thinking. Just put that in there when the baskets come around. And then I'm going to get back to you in a week or so and let you know what our mental equivalent, potential, what our possibility is, and then we can start dreaming about what we would do if we had that. You ever think about that? You know, people say, oh, I'm going to win the lottery, and they go every week faithfully and they get the thing and they scratch it off without ever giving a thought to what they do with it if they got it. Because I don't think they believe they're going to get it. I'm starting to believe that we're going to be able to get what we need in order to do the things that we want to do in this spiritual community. That's where I'm headed. And I hope that you'll sit there with me. But I'll keep you posted. So let's talk about one of people's favorite subjects, money. Actually, it's not one of my favorite subjects, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Money. What's the real meaning of money? You know, we give money way too much power, way too much juju energy. What's the real meaning of money? You know, the fact is money, you know, that little dollar bill, that little green piece of paper, that's all it is a piece of paper that's got some designs and writing on it and stuff, and it's really just a symbol for energy and value and meaning that we give to it. So there's no meaning except what we give to that money, to those little pieces of paper and the coin. And yeah, we don't even bother with the coins so much anymore. But the little pieces of paper. It's all based on what we give to it, the energy, the meaning, the purpose that we give to it based on our perceptions, our beliefs, and our attitudes around it. Now, money does have sort of a soul and a purpose, but only by right of our consciousness. So money's either going to have a juju sort of thing for you, or it's going to have a like whoopee thing for you, depending on what your beliefs and attitudes are around it. It's really simply a symbol for the experiences that we value and want to have. You know, it's not that I want stacks of money that I have to pay attention to and count and have to deal with. I want the experiences that stacks of money would bring me. We want that experience in this community. What would that bring us? It's the experience we want, not the bill. You know, do you really enjoy counting all that every week? You enjoy what we can do with it, right? What can we do with that? We can convert it into fun energy, right? So, now there is a thing about money. It is a very convenient way to move energy. It's a very convenient way to move energy and meaning and value. For example, it's much easier for me to go to the store and give them a $10 bill than to say, I'm glad I'll give you 1/3 of my goat herd for this hairbrush. Right? Yeah. It's much easier to pull something, you know, $10 bill out of my wallet than to say, okay, you 3 goats in here. So there is a convenience factor to it. But money in and of itself is a neutral thing. It's just a neutral thing. And guess what? You know, it really doesn't give itself meaning and purpose and all that. It doesn't really have an agenda of its own. Any agenda it has comes from us. So it's important, though, that we understand what our thoughts and feelings are around money. Because some of us grew up with some really strange stuff, you know. So I want you to contemplate, what life sentences have you imprinted on your own perception of money? What are the life sentences? It might be something like, there's not enough money, so I better hang on to what I've got. It might be, I can't make money in this economy. I can't get ahead. Only the greedy and corrupt make big money. Money is the root of all evil. The most misquoted line, it does not say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. Because again, money of itself is neutral. It does not have an agenda. It does not corrupt all by itself. It is the love of, the attachment to, the craving for, the fear of, or the fear of the lack of, the greed that causes our suffering. It is that which corrupts our relationship with this resource, this symbol of energy. And what it does is it creates a lack of peace, a lack of joy, when we have a funky relationship with it. A Buddhist monk said this: many people think that Buddhism regards poverty as a desirable quality, but poverty as such was in no way praised or encouraged by the Buddha. What he regarded as important was how one gained one's wealth and how one used it. The Buddha taught not to be attached to wealth, for this creates craving and suffering. So, know a positive relationship with yourself and money. It's simply a conveyance of energy, and you're the one putting the energy into it. You're the consciousness that goes into it. So let's talk about a couple of money practices that maybe you could play with this week, without judgment. Now that's the simple but not easy part, without judgment. Maybe make a list of the 10 worst things that you think and feel about money. You might be surprised at some old messages that you might be carrying around that are tainting your money. So what are the 10 worst things you think and feel about money? Take a survey of your checkbook or your credit card statement and see where it is that you're spending your money. It gives you an idea of what you find valuable, whether you're conscious of it or not. What are you spending your money on? That can be quite a revelation, let me tell you. Journal. You know, I actually, periodically I will do this. I take a little tiny notebook, and everything I spend and everything I earn goes in that notebook. I write everything down, including like plugging the parking meter. Do they even do that anymore? I don't know. Every little thing, coffee at Starbucks, whatever, I put it all down there. But I also put a little arrow up or an arrow down, which is symbolic of what's the energy I'm feeling as I spend this or as I receive it. You want to have some up energy. If there's not enough energy, don't spend it. If there's not enough energy, don't receive it. There's something funky going on. You don't want funky energy money in your life. Let it go. Another thing that we can do on the human level is reduce our expenses and our debt. One way that I've found very helpful to do this is when I use actual cash rather than a credit card. There's a big disconnect with the credit card. It's like I'm not actually spending anything until the end of the month. And then I'm like, whoa, you know, it's like, who spent all this money? Peepers? Did Peepers spend all that money? Peepers is my cat. And actually, she did spend some money this weekend. So, you know, where am I spending that money? And I'm more conscious of it if I'm using cash. There's a very different energy to cash than there is to credit cards, or checks even. Cash is, there's a different energy that it holds. So play with that a little bit. Another thing on the human plane is, wow, it's always a good idea to increase the inflow, increase the income. So in order to do that, if you have a job where you get paid a specific amount, you may be able to increase that over time or periodically, but we can increase our income anyway, regardless of a job. Say yes to all sources of inflow. In other words, expect income from unexpected sources. Somebody might buy you lunch. Somebody might send you a gift that you were thinking, I was going to get this myself, but hey, you know, somebody sent it to me. I saved that money. I didn't have to spend that. Somebody maybe just gifts you some money. Maybe you inherit some money. Maybe, and here's a good one, maybe you see a nickel or a quarter or a dime or even a penny on the ground. Pick it up. Pick it up. Because that's telling the universe, yeah, I'm open to receive. Why would the universe send you $1 million in the lottery if you're not willing to pick up a penny or a quarter? Why is it going to entrust you with $1 million, can't entrust you with a quarter? You know, I had a guy in my foundations class. I said that in the foundations class, and he made a practice of picking up any coin or anything, any money that fell on the ground or the floor. He picked it up. And by the time we finished foundations, he bought a condo. Not all with pennies. But it shifted his abundance consciousness because he was absolutely quite sure that he could not afford to buy a condo. And suddenly when he shifted his consciousness a penny at a time, he realized, I am able to buy my condo, and did. So unexpected or expected income from unexpected sources. So let's talk about our favorite subject, enlightenment. We like enlightenment. Don't we? Am I not? Yeah. Please tell me I'm not the only one who does it. Oh, too bad, because I like it, so I'm going to talk about it. So, enlightenment is the greatest and most meaningful work that we will do in this lifetime. It's a spiritual thing, but it is also what brings our humanity and our spirituality together as one so that they recognize each other as one. Spiritual work is the work that we do to move us toward awakening and enlightenment. You know, the light bulb going on. We can do that through study, for example. You know, we have spiritual living groups and spiritual classes that come up. We'll have some new ones in the fall coming up. That's an excellent way for us to do the work of moving toward awakening and enlightenment. It takes us into a deeper knowing of the truth. And spiritual practices like meditation and prayer and visioning, these are also, or doing what we're doing today, celebrating together in spiritual community. These are practices that will take us to a deeper knowing of the truth. And this deeper knowing of the truth, this enlightenment, this awakening, this spiritual study, this spiritual knowing brings us joy and serenity and bliss and freedom and peace and fulfillment. All the good stuff comes this way. And it has this magical, mystical effect on all of the material things in our lives. It has a way of magnifying all of the material experience that we have on the human plane. So doing that inner work, doing the spiritual work, enlivens our human experience. Our relationship then with the abundance that already exists in the universe becomes magnified. Even the material, prosperity, money sort of abundance in the universe flows more easily, and it is more peace-filled. There's a peace-filledness. There's a joyfulness with that kind of relationship with the abundance and the material prosperity of the universe. Soon after his enlightenment, the Buddha passed a man on the road who was struck by the Buddha's radiance and his peaceful presence. And so the man asked the Buddha, he said, "My friend, what are you? Are you a celestial being or a god?" "No," said the Buddha. "Are you some kind of magician or wizard?" And again the Buddha said, "No." "Are you a man?" "No," said the Buddha. "Well, my friend, what then are you?" And the Buddha replied, "I am awake. I am awake." I always thought that'd be a good coffee company, the Buddha Coffee Company. I am awake. What do you think? I trademarked that, so don't know in the case. So let's talk about moving in the direction of enlightenment, awakening and enlightenment, awakening ourselves to the deeper truth so that our human experience can reflect that. You know, we have a wealthy and generous Father, Mother, God, Spirit who has already given us unlimited abundance and infinite possibility. The gift has already been given. It's simply waiting for us to wake up enough to receive it, to take it, to say, "Yes, thank you, I'll have some of that." We are already pre-approved by God. Already, boom, big red stamp, pre-approved. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here right now. So we're already pre-approved. We've been blessed and pre-approved with an unlimited AAA credit rating from Spirit. Already done, already so. And so we live in the grace and the flow of this divine love, this divine gift that's already been given. We're protected and we're harmonious, we're at peace. We have the option to choose joyfulness, to choose fulfillment. It's already there. And be mindful that we are a necessary component to the flow of good in the universe. It doesn't flow as smoothly and as abundantly and as powerfully without us. We are the hands, the heart, the feet, the doingness of Spirit. We are that. You know, from the ancient Greek, the word for humans meant to be the dispenser of God's gifts. That's how powerful we are. We are the dispenser of God's gifts. They've been given to us that we might share them. and give them outwardly. You know, and it's not only about money, it is about all the gifts that we've been given, not to keep to ourselves, but to share. Time, talent, and treasure. To be in service with and for our community, and to be served by it. To be supported. To be in connection and supported, and to be supportive in community. Not only the spiritual community, but even beyond these walls. To know that we've been blessed by Spirit itself, and then for us to become the blessing of Spirit, that we become a living, breathing, walking blessing to this life. And finally, if you've heard nothing else that I've said today, I want to go back to my title. Everything I know about prosperity, I learned from a 10-year-old. There was a little girl named Rima in my spiritual community, and she was a tween, 10-year-old at the time. Yeah, they don't like to be called 10-year-olds. They like to be called tweens, I guess. You know, so because they're not quite teens yet, but they're not babies. They hate to be babies, right? So Rima, one day after service, walked up to me and she gave me this handwritten note. And it says, "Dear Reverend Suzi, I have thought of some ideas to raise money for the church. I know they will work. I think number 5 will be the best, after hearing the miracles that happened to people that were shared at our community prosperity dinner at Shamiana Restaurant. If it doesn't happen right away, don't be depressed. Maybe it will happen when we least expect it. I'm sure these ideas will work one way or another. Love, Rima." And then she goes on to list her ideas. Number 1, have an art sale. Well, yes indeed, our children's ministry created art and sold it and made money and donated that to the church. At the time, we were meeting at Massey University, which is the largest holistic medicine college in the country. And so there were lots of people around besides us on Sundays, lots of students. And so they sold their artwork to the students, and they made a bundle of money before we were even done with the service. I thought that was pretty cool. Number 2, have a bake sale. Well, they all got their mothers and parents and anybody they could to bake stuff, and they sold baked goods and made a bunch of money to kids. So, and again, it was all done and paid for by the time we got out of church on a given Sunday. Number 3, have an organized, and by the way, organized was underlined, have an organized carnival. Well, we didn't have carnival, but we had a holiday bazaar, and then we also had a talent show. And so we made some money that way. Number 4, have an organized, underlined, show or play. Well, our guest musicians put on a concert that was a fundraiser, and we got all of the proceeds from that concert other than the money they made selling their CDs. It was fabulous. All these musicians, it was just a great evening all the way around. And then remember, she said number 5 was the most important one. Pray for what we need and want. And we, in fact, all did that. We did pray. And, you know, prayer works. And then, finally, tell people the church needs money and to please donate some. So, I'm telling you here today, what Rita had to say held true way back when, and she's, gosh, how old is she now? She's probably 20 maybe, or getting close to it. But everything she said 10 years ago still holds true today, every single thing. I mean, you come up with creative ideas that engage one another, that show us off to each other, that show us off to the community. Come up with creative ideas, and these are ways that we give value and people then respond with value. So, you know, and number 7, I mean, number 5, absolutely. The practitioners and the board and I, and I'm sure all of you are constantly in prayer for our abundance and prosperity of every nature in the spiritual community, that we might become that expanded idea that Ernest Holmes talks about, that we become that expanded idea to one another and to this greater community so that we make a difference, so that we help create a world that works for everyone. And then number 7, tell people the church needs money and please donate some. So I'm telling you, through Rima, the church needs money, please donate some, all right? And we'll find out what our mental equivalent is. Let's find out what the possibility is, and then let's go live it. Let's go live it. Let's do the things that makes possible. If we can do it, why not? Why screw around? You know what I'm saying? I mean, how many times are we going to go around in this life? We got one life, and it's the life of this community. Let's do it big. Let's live large. Let's live large. Let's live into our potential. So blessings on your journey of making peace with money. And begin by getting yourself a kid mentor. I guarantee they'll change your life. Whether it's your kid, your grandkid, or somebody else's, get one. There's one back there now, you'll have to share. And so it is.